Hi, welcome back. In our last video, we covered the basics of an example home network. This video, we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about networking, specifically with regards to how this device protects your network and also how it establishes an internal network that your internal devices can use to communicate with the outside world. So, in order to establish your internal network, the device here, this collective device that you have at home that does your modem and your Wi-Fi, has to establish a network. Now, in our first video, we talked about how the IP addresses work and what they're comprised of. So in the private IP space, we gave the example of using 10.11.11.11 and 10.10.10.10. So in reality, while these addresses seem like they're pretty similar, they actually are totally different. And the reason is the way it comes back to the way that networking is done. So establishing a network can mean a few different things. And we're talking about the actual data definition of it, where these two devices, this laptop and this tablet device, are actually not on the same network, even though they're communicating with the same Wi-Fi device. They would not be able to communicate with each other directly, and it's because they are on different subnets. Now, the way a network is created is you have a few things. You have a gateway address, and that gateway address is the starting point for all the communications. So when I try to reach the internet from my laptop sends a message to its gateway. And if we have a gateway, we have to have some kind of rules to define its boundaries. So that's one of the things that you can configure on a Wi-Fi device is you can set up a network and you define it. The first item you define is the gateway address. So a gateway address for this device's network might look something like this: 10.11.11.1. So, because that is the case, we need to know the boundaries of this network. And the boundaries of this network, since we have a gateway, are going to be defined by something called the subnet. And the subnet helps us define how these addresses how this address can change and what it can interact with. Now, that may not be exactly technically correct, but I'm trying to help you understand this from as technical a perspective as you can possibly have without really needing to understand everything else that goes with it. So, if this is our gateway, our subnet address would be defined according to the octets that can change as part of our address space. So we'll just kind of move over here for a second. When we talked about in the last video the fact that you can go 0 to 255 in any one of these octets, okay? The reason it's called an octet is because this, when it's at its full max potential, is 8 bits of information, okay? No matter what, it's 8 bits of information. But its highest potential number is 255. Now, the way that this works, without trying to really melt anyone's brain, is we use subnetting to define how much of this space is open. So if the subnet, and again, this is a setting you can set up on your tablet, on your laptop, you can set the subnet using this notation. So if in my gateway address okay, I've got 10.11.11.1, and the subnet is set at 255.255.255.0. In essence, what I'm saying is, as we look at these two numbers, there is a correlation based on the position in the octets between the numbers in our address space and our subnet space. So the subnet here at 255, which this is pretty standard that this one is fixed, the first one is 255, it's telling me this will not change at all. This number won't change. Same goes for this one and this one as we move on down the line. So this doesn't have to necessarily be 0. It can be, you can put a number in there, and that limits the size of the available spacing here. But in this instance, because it is 0, it means this number could be 1 to 255. So, because this number in the subnet, and again it's spelled this way, S-U-B-N-E-T, subnet, the subnet here in the last octet is open, which means I have 1 to 255. Now, one of those spaces is already taken, and that's for the gateway. One is taken by the gateway, and another one is taken by the broadcast address. So I'm down 2 addresses, and usually 255 or 54, 254 are the broadcast addresses. And there's a lot of this stuff that's built into these devices, so it just automatically does it. And a lot of times they'll just ask you, what is the gateway address you want to use? And you'll put the 10.11.11.1 in. And then it will ask you, what is the IP range you want this network to be? And that's a user-friendly way of getting to a subnet address. And it will just generate it based off of what you choose. Some of them will ask how many available IPs you want. There's a number of different variations on this same theme. But the goal is the same thing, and that is to give you a true subnet setting. And once you have this subnet setting and you have this gateway setting, you can more easily interface with other devices. You can set up your iPad, you can set up your laptop. And then there's one other device, and we'll talk about that in our next video, or one other setting, I should say, that you need to have, and that is DNS. So tune into our next video, we'll cover that, and we'll also be adding notes in the comments for the videos, so please check those out. And if you want to see more of these videos, or you have feedback, please let us know. Also, like and subscribe. I don't know where the thing's at, but it's probably down here somewhere. And thank you for watching.